Hi and welcome, Lisa here. Thanks for joining me for another card video here on the Whimsy Stamps YouTube channel. So today I'm sharing some new products with you. I have the new BAM Year Old Clear Stamp Set, plus the Comic Halftone and the Comic Burst A2 die. All of these items are available and I'll have them linked below for you. Now I have a really fun background that I'm sharing with you today too. It's pretty easy, so let's get started with that. So I'm getting started with a 5.5 by 5.5 inch piece of 80-pound cardstock here. And the first thing I'm going to do is to create some rays on this cardstock. I'm using Memento inks in the colors Rosebud, Tangelo, and Dandelion. Now, to start out, I'm just finding the center of my cardstock and I'm going to add a little dot in the center. And this just acts as an anchor for me. I have a place to come back to whenever I move my paper. So here we go. I have a piece of scrap paper here that I'm using. That's all you need for this at this point. And what I'm going to do is start with that Rosebud ink. I'm going to load the brush with the ink. And to apply the ink, I'm going to push the brush down on the edge of that scrap paper and then lift it up as I come off of that. And what's going to happen is it's going to create that sharp edge you're seeing there. And then as we lift that brush up and away, it's fading that ink out. So I'm going to continue laying this ink down, randomly spacing these rays all the way around the cardstock. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the Dandelion ink, working my way around the cardstock, pushing down off the edge of the scrap paper and then up to create that sharp line and then fade the ink out. One more time around with the Tangelo ink, and again just pushing down and pulling up. I never work in a circular motion with this. So I'm going to go ahead, fill in around the cardstock. Now at this point you can stop depending on the look you want, but I decided I wanted to take this one step further. So I'm going to repeat that whole process, only this time I'm going to go in the opposite direction. And what's going to happen is instead of us just having rays of light, we're actually creating bands of light here. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to create bands with the Rosebud, and then I'm going to follow that with the do the Dandelion and then also the Tangelo ink. Now, once we have these bands created, we're going to come in and do some stenciling over this. So there's the finished bands. I absolutely love the way this looks. So let's go ahead and bring in our comic halftone stencil. Now I'm just going to hold this in place with purple tape. I'm just securing the card to the back of the stencil and then flipping it back over one piece of tape to hold it down. So I'm going to take both of those pieces of scrap paper and I am going to be covering up individual bands so that I can add the same color ink onto the stencil in those areas. So wherever there's an orange band, I'm going to stencil orange over that. And the same with the pink and the yellow. Now, this is a little bit time consuming. It's tedious, but it's so worth it in the long run. However, if this is not something that you want to spend this much time doing, you could go over with one color or you could use black ink instead of doing it this way. But I really like the look that this gave me. I was so happy with the way this turned out. So here we go. We have our background done. Now I went ahead and I cut some of these burst from the center of that Comic Burst A2 die. I have 3 of these cut out that we're going to be using. But that's the look that we're going for here. This is going to be in the center and then we're going to have some things around it as you saw in the picture at the beginning of the video. I decided I wanted to take it one step further and I'm going to be using a very inexpensive calligraphy pen and my T ruler. And I am just going to come in and lay down some black lines randomly. Some I'm doing solid lines all the way to the center. Others I'm going only half of the way down or a third of the way down the band, and I'm doing a flicking motion exactly the same way we do when we use our Copic markers and we flick that marker. That's exactly what I do on the shorter bands, just to create that faded out end there. So I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. And it's actually really fun and relaxing to sit down and create backgrounds like that for me. Okay, so we have a 5.5-inch square card base, and I have a piece of black cardstock that I've cut to 5 3/8 of an inch square. I'm just adding that to the card base with some liquid adhesive, and then I'm going to go ahead and put liquid adhesive on the back of my background and add that to the card base. So I'm going to go ahead and stack these three cutouts here together with some glue, and then we're going to put mounting foam on the back of them and place them in the center of the card. At this point, it's all pretty simple. The background is what takes the most time when you're doing this. Now, I did go ahead and stamp my images and run those through the scan and cut so that it would be pretty easy here. Now, very simple coloring. I stamped the images on 80-pound smooth cardstock with Memento Tuxedo black ink. The letters are colored with RV09. The clouds I'm applying now, W00, W1, and W3. And then the little yellow parts on the bombs, one's Y18 and the other is Y15. So a total of 6 markers to color these little images up. We're going to add mounting foam to the back of those and go ahead and arrange those on our card. So what I did was was first going to use sentiment strips on this, but then I decided I would just stamp the sentiment right there in the center. So if you're wanting to do it like this, stamp the sentiment before you add it to the card base. I got lucky because the foam I was using is pretty stiff, so I can stamp on it as long as I have the whole back side of that covered with foam, and luckily I did. So stamping directly on that center was easy peasy for me, but I do recommend that you do that before you add it to your card base. So I just added some pink sequins to finish that off with glossy accents, and I did go ahead and cover the bombs with glossy accents, and then I just set that aside and let it dry. So nothing very complicated after you do the background, and the background is real simple also. Um, if you enjoy seeing background techniques like this, let me know in the comments below, and I will try to do more of those for you. I really appreciate you joining me today. I hope you enjoy the new mini release over at Whimsy Stamp. Click that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of new content to the channel. Now, for more information about the products, head over to the Whimsy Stamps website. The links are in the description box below for you. And as always, I hope you have an amazing day.